All right, everybody. We're going live a little bit early tonight because I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it much longer. So we're going to do the summary here. Wild Wonder Conference Day 2. Let me get this set up on Instagram Live as well. I'm going to share about all the classes today, give you tips if you're doing them as a video, summarize the talks. I did miss the backstage pass, which is happening right now. So I won't be able to summarize the backstage pass, but everything else I will be able to summarize just to give you an idea of what you missed, if there's things you want to know about the day, or if you want to make decisions about how to take the classes. So like if you're in another time zone and you missed Sephi's class, I'll give you some tips about how that class went and how to be most prepared. So first things first, day 2, here's my entry for the morning poem. Here's John Muir Laws reading the poem, and he was wearing one of Akshay's shirts, which was really cool. And the poem was by E.E. Cummings called Thank You. I made a note here that I showed up a little bit late to the poem. The poem starts really early in the morning, so I did sleep in a little bit longer, or just took longer with my morning routine, but then jumped right in. And as you can see, I'm cutting these out of the schedule and pasting them in for the classes. So the first class was Explore Color Theory with Nature's Palette with Sephi George. This class, one of the reasons why I missed part of the poem is because I was getting the materials ready for this class. So if you're going to take this class, it's really important to get her worksheets printed out. So she has a bunch of these amazing worksheets. I think I still have some back here. She has some amazing worksheets, and she also explains all of her materials. So this was a class where it was really important to print those out, and I printed them out on watercolor paper, which I'm really, really glad I did, because she had these cool exercises, and the class was really fast paced. So I got a little bit behind at the color mixing exercises at the beginning, and then I was sort of behind for the rest of the class, but it was a really amazing class. She had photos of all of these really cool birds in India with amazing color that live near her near Mumbai, and look at all the colors on these birds. So it was really good to have the materials all organized and figured out before her class. Look at this. This is really quality stuff. So try to always get the resources figured out before you take the class. I cut up the papers from her class and ended up making like some fun foldouts. I still haven't finished them, but I put some of the birds. We didn't get that much time in her class to draw these birds. So it's a little bit fast paced, but if you take it as the video version, you can always pause it. So that's a benefit. Very next class, there was a 15-minute break, and then it was this class with Rosalie Hazlett. Rosalie's a great teacher. She's taught at the conference before, and this class was with watercolor pencils. So this is the only class at the conference this year that talks about watercolor pencils. So if you want to experiment with watercolor pencils and you want to follow along class, she doesn't talk a ton. It's a follow along class. Sephi's class was also a follow along class. You can take this class and get a really good follow along for watercolor pencils. I ended up putting ink at the end, and I wasn't sure if I ruined it with the ink, but I spent forever on this. She did 2 other paintings, I think, and I only got to this one, but I did have some fun with her other exercises, and she had some funny quotes, like, I like things to be a little psychedelic looking, when she was doing one of her paintings. Or she had some details about hummingbirds can fly 45 miles per hour. And she had some really interesting tips about watercolor pencils. So, and she also likes to do these big washes underneath before she goes out into the field and does her nature journaling out in the field. Then we had Pencil Miles and Chill, and this time I made it. I facilitated a group conversation about art journaling, scrapbooking, and nature journaling. And it was really interesting because one of the participants, Vivian, she has recently gone through all of her old nature journals, and she has used all of her nature journals as source material for collaging and creating one big new journal that compiles stuff from all of those. So she went back through all of her old pages, ripped and cut stuff out, and glued them all into different orders and more of like a topical order in a new book. Now, isn't that really interesting? Just think of all of the applications for that with nature journaling. So that was a really cool conversation. Learned about some new supplies. And then right after Pencil Miles, that was supposed to be a lunch break, but I prefer to do Pencil Miles if I can. Then it was Kate Rudder's class. Not the best drawing that I've ever done of Kate Rudder. Her hair came out great, but her face doesn't look quite right. But practicing drawing your teachers is just a good way to practice paying attention to them, and it gives you something on the page, and then you can put quotes that they make right here. There you can see I just cut out the thing from the schedule. It's sort of a fun way to make it like a checklist, but it also just gives you a scrapbooky way to get that in there. Here were the exercises we did with her class, the 4 S's: scenes, senses, spaces, and souvenirs. It was super well thought out. Her classes always are really well designed and really well executed. She puts a lot of time into practicing them. So you can see we did some metadata, we did maps, different types of maps, landscapes, souvenirs. I ended up towards the end just making souvenirs out of stuff I had lying around my table. But the important thing is I filled pages, I learned stuff, I was paying attention during the whole class. And then the next class was with Roseanne. This was the math one. You can see here we did these trees using a calculator to get the branching proportions right. It's something Leonardo did. This is actually the calculator right here. And then I was trying to do like a T-stain thing. This is an equation for the Fibonacci sequence. Actually, that's an equation for the trees. And I just crumpled up the page. I had printed it out on some resume paper. I just crumpled it up and put it in with some water and an old tea bag and stained it. Accidentally got some watercolor on it later on, so kind of ruined the effect by getting that phthalo blue on there. But you can see how easy it is to incorporate some of these scrapbooking techniques into the conference, into your conference notes. So the conference is actually a really great place to practice some of these sketchbooking and art scrapbooking, art journaling techniques. Here's another example. This was a printed out worksheet from Rosemary. I didn't get these free drawn lines drawn perfectly, but I try not to stress about it. So I even made fun of the fact that I didn't like this line and that line was more accurate. And I just glued this into here. Here are some of the ratios and cool stuff we learned in her class. Then it was Mike Rohde's class. So today was the first day where we're on this new pattern that is going to be for the rest of, I think until for today and tomorrow, there's 3 classes in the afternoon. So if you feel extra tired at the end of the day, then today it's because there was 3 classes that you had to do instead of the other ones, they're conversations. So yesterday and then the day after tomorrow, and then on the last day, those 2 days, there's going to be conversations. So we had three classes in the afternoon, 2 classes in the morning. That's a lot of classes. So by the time it came around to Mike Rohde, you might have been feeling tired if you're trying to do the marathon, but his class on layout was really interesting. He had a lot of stuff about interesting supplies that he uses. And I did a search for some of the supplies during his class, and then really soon afterwards I saw Facebook was advertising those supplies to me, so that's a little bit creepy and annoying. Here was one of the techniques he talked about using. I didn't have any tracing paper, but I had some of this, so I taped it over something that I liked the composition of and practiced just drawing the composition, the basic shapes on here as a strategy for learning about layout and composition. So that was a new strategy that I learned from Mike Rohde. I have interviewed him on the Nature Journal show before. Really cool, best known for his sketchnoting. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to layout, so it's really worthwhile to take the class. I recommend. Oh, Crystal, thanks. That's a really sweet thing to say. I'm glad. I'm glad that you liked. I'm glad that you wanted to take my class so badly. Please post in the Padlet if you haven't already. There's tons of cool stuff that's getting posted on there. And if you have any other thoughts about scrapbooking and art journaling combined with nature journaling, I have this whole page that I made on my website, including the Padlet, where people can share on there. So check it out. There's materials, there's ideas, and there's a link to that Padlet, which is a really fun way to share. I'll post the link to the straight to the Padlet on here as well. Let me see if I can just grab that really quick. Here it is. Padlet is just a fun way for people to have more of a participatory experience in these classes. I should have the QR code still, but I don't. Anyways, it's a great way to share. Thanks for letting me know, Crystal. And so here are a couple layouts that I did in Mike Rohde's class. It's with pencil, so it's not that easy to see, but it was a really fun class to practice layout. I think layouts is really important. It's a great way to it's a great way to get better, make your pages look better, and organize information in a better way. And then there was a dinner break, and I actually, on my dinner break, I went out and I was a bad boy and I had a cocktail. I must admit, after a long day, I feel like I deserved it. And while I was having my cocktail, of course, I pulled out my small sketchbook and I did this at the bar. So, you know, if you get in the habit of just always making marks and always drawing, it's as easy as pulling out your phone. You know, you're sitting there or you're waiting in line at a pharmacy, for example. That's what this page is. I was waiting in line at a pharmacy. I could have just been looking at my phone, but instead I did a drawing of the inside of the pharmacy, and it was actually a really cool place. And so was this bar that I visited during the dinner break. And then we had the keynote tonight, Fernando Gomez Bautista. Not the best drawing I've ever done of him. It doesn't really look like him, but it was a keynote, not a class. Still really interesting. Hopefully you saw the interview that I did with him. He is a illustrator at National Geographic, where he's been working for 17 years. You've probably seen some of his posters, some of his illustrations. Really, really amazing, inspiring artist. And he talked about his process, infographics, sculpture, animation, and all of that. And right now, the backstage pass is happening. So there's still time to go over there and join that. This is my recap from day 2 of the Wild Wonder Nature Journaling Conference. We're not even halfway, as you can see from this, we're not even halfway through. So my main goal with these is just to kind of give you a summary of what happened during the day, some tips, and I definitely recommend, if you're doing any of the classes live this weekend and you haven't done any live classes yet, I definitely recommend you go on to Sked and make sure you have all of the materials ready. I don't know what the classes are going to be like tomorrow. The first one is going to be with Sophia Gazarian. I did interview her, so we learned a little bit about what's required for that class. This other class with Meryl, Jamila, it's with gouache, but there's not that much information on Sked about it yet. So try to, with all of these, I know Maggie's class is going to require some special materials like charcoal. A lot of these classes are also going to have references. So try to get prepared before you go to the classes tomorrow and take them live. That is my biggest recommendation. And also, don't miss Pencil Miles and Chill or the Backstage Pass. If you can stay up that late, try to make it to those, because it's really fun to get to talk to other people and learn from other people. So that's it from day 2 of the Wild Wonder Nature Journaling Conference. You can also check out my Instagram. Do I even have it on here? Nope. You can check out my Instagram. It's at Marley Pfeiffer on Instagram, and I'm posting little stuff all about my process for every day as I try to do this huge marathon at Wild Wonder 2024. All right, bye everyone. Bye.